Awesome. So the very first module, we're looking at choosing your winning webinar title. Now, this would seem like, a pretty obvious thing. It's like, okay, this is obvious. I mean, choosing a webinar title, it's just choosing a title, right? Wrong. And I have seen too many people get this very first step wrong. I've seen certain webinar titles where people use cute titles. They want to find something that rhymes and something that sounds kind of cute, something like that sounds really fancy, or sometimes they just want to put certain words in. And I see certain titles and I just think, no, you know what? That title is hurting your conversions. That title is going to cost you money. That title is going to cost you attendees. And so, what I will say, first of all, is in choosing your winning webinar title, don't look to choose a cute title. Don't look to choose a cute title. And please understand, I've been in this game for a while. I've been, writing copy for a very long time. And I've tried the cute titles. I've tried trying to get something that rhymes and trying to, but I've come to realize that every time I do that, it costs me. It's never as effective as the process that I'm going to be taking you through here. And it's a simple step-by-step process. And as we work through this process, and you will come up with your own winning webinar title. So by the time we're through with this module, you would have come up with your own winning webinar title that will attract attention and definitely stand out and attract the right people to you. Okay, so it will help you to attract the right people to you, because the thing is, in running a webinar, it's not to get a lot of people registered, it's to get a lot of the right people registered. I'll say that again. When you're looking to run a webinar, you are not looking to get a lot of people registered. You are looking to get a lot of the right people. Okay, so please remember that as we work through this. All right. So the first thing you want to do is this. When you're looking to choose your webinar title, start with the end in mind. So a lot of times, what do I mean by that? Well, ultimately, what is it you want to achieve by the time you're through with this webinar? Now this is a big one, right? And ultimately, I would assume you want to sell something, whatever it is, even if it's not a paid product, but there's still something that you want people to do, right? So there's something that you would want to sell to the people who show up at your webinar, whether it's a paid something they're going to pay for, something they're going to have to invest their time or energy in, but there is still an investment of some sort. Okay, so my question is what is it that you're planning to sell at the end of the webinar, right? Whatever that thing is, I'd like you to write that down right now. What is it that you're planning to sell at the end of the webinar? Okay, so maybe you're running a driving school, and maybe what you're selling is your driving driving lessons, for example. So maybe what you're selling is driving lessons, or maybe what you're selling is a course on getting out of debt. So maybe what you're selling is a program that they can work through to get out of debt. So maybe it's your debt elimination program, or maybe it's helping mothers get rid of stubborn baby fat that they've struggled to get rid of. Maybe you have a formula or a process or a system for helping mothers get rid of stubborn baby fat, for example, or whatever it is. I'm just coming up with a few examples. You know what it is you're selling. So maybe it's an event you're running. So maybe you're running an event, a seminar or a conference or a workshop or something. Whatever it is that you're selling, just write that thing down. What is it that you plan to sell at the end of the webinar? So that's the very first thing you want to do. You start with that. Okay, now you're thinking, what's choosing a title for my webinar got to do with what I'm going to sell? Everything. And you'll understand why in a brief moment. Okay, now that you've identified what it is you're going to be selling at the end of the webinar, what it is you're going to be offering. Now, big thing, this is really big. What is the big problem that what you're offering will solve for your buyers? What is the big difference that it's going to make in their lives? Okay, so for example, if you are selling a debt cancellation system or debt elimination program, the big problem is think about it. What is the big problem? It's to get rid of debt. I mean, and be financially, and get financial relief. So it's to get rid of debt, and so they have more money to spend. Okay, so they get rid of debt. They're no longer under pressure, and they now have more cash flow to spend on the things which are really important to them. Okay, so that's one example. So let's look at the other example. So if it's the driving, if you're selling maybe your driving school or your package driving program, what problem are you solving? Well, it's the fact that, and again, it all depends on who you're targeting. They can finally pass their driving test, and so they can, you know, do things they want to do, like get a new job or live the lifestyle they want to live. So it's finally pass their driving test, so they can finally have the freedom to go wherever they want to go, whenever they want to go there, for example. Okay. What about getting rid of stubborn baby fat? Okay, so what is the big problem? And you think about it is maybe the big frustration for this person is every time they look in the mirror, they don't like what they see. I mean, they have some old dresses from before they had their babies and they can't fit in those dresses anymore. And it would be that, the big problem is they want to just get rid of this thing they don't like and be that person they used to like once more. Okay, so that then is the big problem. It's that thing they don't, that what they see that they don't like when they look in the mirror, and having to put up with that every morning, and the fact that they can get rid of that and they would be able to fit into those old dresses that they haven't worn in a couple of years. Okay, so I'm just using these examples, but again, you think about your target market. What is the big problem, the big frustration, the thing that really is frustrating them that what you're offering will help them solve? And then what is that thing they desire that what you're offering will help them get? So it's usually frustration or desire, pain or dream. Okay, so you can either speak primarily to the frustration and then promise the dream, or speak primarily to the dream and talk about moving away from the frustration. Okay, so that's the big problem that what you're offering will solve for your buyers. Okay. Now, this is where it all comes together. Okay. Now, when it comes to choosing titles, there's all sorts of different formulas and all sorts of different approaches. But what I know works best for most people is using how-to titles. And I'm going to take you through that. I'm going to take you through that. And in the next 10 minutes or so, you will have your own title for your webinar. Okay, so it's using the power of how-to headlines to create the title. Now, key thing is this. The title of the problem your webinar should solve, hear this, the promise your webinar should make should be the same promise that what you're offering here, the problem that your main program, whatever you're selling, is going to solve, should be the same problem that your webinar is going to solve. Okay, so whatever you're selling at the end of the webinar, right, whatever that big promise is, your webinar should make the same promise. Okay, now you're thinking, well, if you're thinking, and I'll explain the process, why does it have to solve the same problem? And I'll explain why, right? Because whatever problem you promise to solve with your webinar will determine who registers. And you don't want to register the wrong people. So a lot of times people use a broad topic to enroll a lot of people in their webinar. The problem with this is you bring in the wrong people. And so by the time you're making the offer is not congruent with the people who were there. So there's no alignment and they don't buy. Okay, so, but if you know this is the problem that what I'm selling is going to be solving, then your webinar should speak to the same problem, right? Hear that, okay? So your webinar is going to address that problem. And as we work through the other modules, I will take you through the process of designing your webinar. But right now we're choosing the right title for your webinar. Okay, so you want to use the power of how-to headlines to create the title for your webinar. Okay, so now let's look at the different ways we can do this. So how to move away from your pain. Write that down. How to move away from your pain so you can achieve your or attain your dreams. Attain your dream. Okay. How to move away from your pain so you can attain your dream. Or how to, that's one example of a how-to title. How to move away from your pain so you can attain your dream. So that's one example. Okay. Another example is how to move towards your dream even if you've endured pain for so long. Don't worry, this is all going to come to light. Okay, I'm going to explain how to use these different scenarios. Let's just work with these two. There's a few more, but these two are fine. I don't want to overwhelm you. If we work with these two, you will choose one of these two and you'll come up with a brilliant title for your webinar. Okay, so let's look at the first example, and I would use the example of getting rid of stubborn baby fat. Okay, and that's what we're going to use. Okay, so the first one is how to move away from your pain so you can achieve your dream. Now, so the person who wants to lose baby fat, what is their pain or their frustration? Their pain and their frustration is they look in the mirror, they don't like what they see, right? Every time they look in the mirror, it just, they don't like it. They've lost what they had and they don't like it. And what is their dream is to be able to fit into those really lovely dresses that they used to wear a couple of years ago that they can't wear any longer because they just don't fit. Okay. So we can say how to get rid of that stubborn baby fat and fit into those size 8 dresses again. For example, I just made that up. How to get rid of that stubborn baby fat and fit into those old dresses that have been sitting in your wardrobe for the last 2 years or more. Right, that's an example. How to get rid of, right? So, how to get rid of, that's the pain, how to move away from the pain. Okay, how to get rid of that stubborn baby fat, and then so you can, and then move towards the dream. Fit into those old dresses that you haven't worn in a while. Okay, they're sitting in your wardrobe. So that's one example. Okay, now let's look at another example. So let's look at getting out of debt. So it's a debt elimination program. Okay, all right. So how to get rid of how to get rid of all your credit card debt. How to get rid of all your credit card debt in 6 months or less, so you can, finally, I'm trying to think of what their dream is, and you can just add in the dream. How to get rid of how to get rid of all your credit card debt in 6 months or 12 months, whatever you're promising. So you would know that. So how to get rid of credit card debt in 12 months or less, so you can finally move from the red zone to the black zone again, something like that. So you can see that example. So let's look at the third scenario is passing your driving test. Okay, so move away from the pain. Okay, now I'm trying to think. Again, it all depends on who you're targeting. And that would depend. So if it's a young person who maybe, the frustration is, I'm trying to think. Okay, trying to think creatively about passing a driving test, who you're targeting, and what their frustration is. Okay, I can't think of anything right now, but I'm sure you get the idea. Okay, so maybe later on, if we do have time, I will come up with an example for the driving test, just in case there's anybody who gets the program who maybe is a driving instructor and wants to use this. Okay, but there you go with the moving away from your pain and moving towards your dream. Okay, now let's look at the other one, just a twist, which is the same thing, but how to move towards your dream, even if you've endured pain for so long. So let's go first of all with the baby fat one, and that could be how to fit into those dresses that have been sitting in your wardrobe for the last 2 years. Um, and as you get rid of that stubborn baby fat. So there we go. How to fit into those old dresses again. How to fit in that old red dress that's been sitting in your wardrobe for the last couple of years, and get rid of that stubborn baby fat that embarrasses you every time you look in the mirror, for example. Okay, so that's an interesting title there. Now, also getting out of debt. How to finally be financially free, and get rid of all that credit card debt, that debt that's been holding you back for years. So there we go. So there's two examples of speaking to the pain and the dreams, and using how-to headlines to create a wow title for your webinar. Again, how-to webinars tend to be the best type of webinars. How-to titles will speak directly to whoever you're targeting and will get them registering for your webinar. So don't be cute. Just think how to move away from this so you can get that. How to finally get this, even if you had to put up with that. If you go with either of these two types of titles for your webinar, and remember, just look at what you're selling at the end and make the promise that you're going to help them get what you're going to be selling at the end, and use that to determine the title of your webinar. So that's it. That's module 1. Hope that's been useful, and I hope you've applied this. And just take the time now, if you haven't done it, to just sit down and work on your webinar title. And as soon as you're done, we'll then move on to module 2, where we'll look at crafting a winning webinar registration page. And here I'm going to be literally showing you how to write registration page copy that is compelling. And so when people land on the page, they will be compelled to register, because it will speak directly to them, it will connect with them emotionally, and they will want to be there as a result of what you have there on the page. And I'm going to be sharing a template with you that you can use as well. So look out for module 2, and let's keep moving on. So